Most of the clients that come to us are doctors, business leaders, people with full-time jobs who don't have 10,000 hours or whatever number of hours after their long day to learn how to code and actually create their own app, or even micromanage someone else who's creating their own app. What we do is solve that problem. We act as a proxy between high-performing business leaders and founders to be a trusted technical partner in design and development. We want to get the idea right the first time instead of the third or the fourth. Here's an example. Jamil Alkhoury is at the TMJ and Sleep Therapy Center of San Francisco, and he came to us with an app idea that would add value to his clinic. What he wanted was a symptom tracking app for his patients that would identify when they're feeling worse so he could call patients back into his office. An obvious ROI. What he didn't have time to do was to hold our hand, teach us his vision and parts of his domain. He also didn't have the luxury of failing, because no one really challenged his ideas on the way to launch. And while no one can really guarantee an app will succeed, what he needed was someone who took as much ownership of failure as he did. There were a couple of things we did to make the experience as easy for Jamil as possible. During the first step, design, we made sure to focus on the stakeholders, which are the patients, and making the app extremely easy for them to use. During this design process, we actually went through and created a design iteration, tested it with a subgroup of Jamil's patients, got feedback, made changes, and repeated that process until we had a firm design that worked well for patients. And how did we know? Well, they told us. We were able to do the design explicitly based on what the patients needed most. We also challenged the need for complicated AI algorithms. We knew that it would add time to the product launch, as well as maybe be overkill for his particular product, because you need a subset, you need a core amount, a critical mass of data in order to really train an AI model correctly. So what we decided to do instead was create a simple regression formula, which is a big word, but is really just an equation which allowed us to visualize and show the patient if they were generally feeling worse based on their tracked symptoms. And it ended up working based on the feedback we received. We also made critical decisions in terms of features. So based on our previous experiences, we knew that it's very easy to get excited about a bunch of features, and then all of a sudden the entire scope of the project increases, just expands like a balloon. And we don't want to do that during an MVP. We actually want to keep it pretty lean. So what we did is we focused on the most important feature, which is tracking for the patients, and then slowly but surely added in more value-adding components, like a prescription refill mechanism for a patient to request a prescription refill, as well as a way for them to communicate with a doctor. And those were components we added after doing like a small proof of concept with them, getting feedback on it, and then if it was positive feedback, pursuing it. If it was negative feedback, iterating. A few months after beginning, we were able to successfully launch his product into the San Francisco clinic. And it was one of the least stressful experiences of Jamil's career. He said essentially he only had to be involved with weekly meetings in order to update on progress, as well as playing with some of the demos and providing some justifiable feedback to us during the development process. And other than that, it was really hands-off. We were able to control, not necessarily control, but more so manage the entire project from start to finish, as well as deliver the product in its intended form, a way that would help patients track their symptoms.